If you think about it, in 1941 we went to war on both sides of the globe, and just a few years we had won the war on both sides of the globe, and that was for our freedom.
You're never ready for war. There's no such thing. Realizing we have to do this, come hell or high water, it's up to us. And nobody else is going to do it but us.
Why is this called the greatest generation? There's the simple answer to that. It's called the greatest generation because it was not only veterans like us, it was the citizens of the United States who recognized that we had a wonderful, wonderful country, but we want to keep it a wonderful, wonderful country. And the only one that was going to be allowed would be to win this war.
Vincent Rosati is my name, and I went into the Navy. My name is Mario Rosati, and I was in the United States Navy, the Navy Air Force. I was reading a newspaper, the Honolulu Advertiser, near the barber shop. And my shipmate came running down and said, "The Japanese are attacking." I said, "You're crazy." So I went up the ladder and I looked aft. We were about 2,000 yards from the Arizona. And sure as hell, you could see the planes bombing and strafing. I went to the theater, and on the way back home, I passed this restaurant I usually frequented. And he saw me, and the proprietor came on and says, "Did you hear the news?" And Pearl Harbor was bombed. And right away, I thought of my brother. The thing that sticks in my mind, when we were passing the Arizona, the guys up there in the aftermath, firing and fighting, and below them there was nothing but fire. That's the thing that sticks mostly in my mind. I know them guys never survived. We were so busy, I don't think I was afraid. When you're real busy, what we were doing, fear don't come into it. It's when there's a lull, that's when you get the shock.
I think in those days everyone wanted to serve. It was the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And it was more than just bombing Pearl Harbor, the United States of America. It was we felt it was an atrocity against every man, woman, and child in America. My name is Donald Burgett, and I was a paratrooper, Able Company 506, 101st Airborne. One of the high casualty rates that we had was when we parachuted into Holland, a little town called San, and we were supposed to capture the bridge. Well, they blew it up in our face, but getting to it, we had to charge into 488s that were firing at us head on, and they were blowing my people away. We lost, within an hour, we lost about a third of my company.
D-Day to me was the crowning experience that I had. 10,000 airplanes, 130,000 troops, 5,000 ships. That really shook me up. My name is George Koskimäki. I served with the 101st Airborne Division in World War II. On June 7th, after we had parachuted into Normandy, we lost 350 men who were killed on the jump. The invasion of the beaches, over 2,000 men died.
It's hard to talk about war. You have to smell it. You have to be there. You have to feel the cold. You have to smell the gunpowder. You hear the clanking of the tracks of the tanks, and it's an eerie feeling that gets into you. You kind of wonder what it's all about. My name is John M. Jack Roberts. I was in the Army, served in the European theater. I was on my way up to a forward observation post as an artillery scout corporal when we got ambushed by the Germans. 11 of us went forward, 2 killed, everybody else was wounded except me and another guy. Like Winston Churchill said one time, the most exhilarating experience in the world is being shot at and missed. That makes a lot of sense.
You see so much death, and you're yelling at your buddy, you know, come on, let's go, and all of a sudden he's blown away. One of the guys to my right was blown away, just his 2 legs were left. His legs fell on the ground. He was direct hit with a 75, but you learn that life is so quick, and it's gone.
Well, I get kind of emotional about that, thinking about the guys who aren't with us anymore.
You become very hardened to the reality of war. You depend on your friends, your buddies, for support. My name is Bill Hoole. I fought in Europe in the Third Army during World War II under General George S. Patton. We didn't, and in combat you don't think in terms of heroes. You do what you have to do, right then and there. And you do some terrible things, which afterwards you have a very deep regret for. They're as vivid in my mind as if they happened yesterday or earlier this morning. I can shut my eyes, I can see Morville, I can see Monaco Woods, I can see Saar Union, Rudalby, Bennestrov, those battles, I can see them just as plain as can be.
My name is Prudence Burns Burrell, and I was an Army nurse in World War II.
My name is Darvina Strobridge, and I served as an Army nurse in World War II.
I really wanted to see the world, and I thought maybe I would go into other countries and nurse the black soldiers, because I knew that it was all segregated, and they would need someone there. And I would speak up and see that they got really good care.
I thought I had a skill that perhaps I could help some of our brave young men, and we called them Peach Fuzz boys because they were so young, that perhaps I could be of service to them and take care of them and be comforting to them.
You feel sorry, and you have a feeling that you hope that God would help.
Well, I treat it as though if it was my son or my brother, I would like to have someone else who cared for me. And we shared about their families, their girlfriends. They shared everything.
You nursed them and did the best that you could in order to make it better for them. And when they died, to know that someone was trying to help.
When you sit there in an airplane and you can see the puffs of smoke, the flak bursting in front of you, and you had a total feeling of helplessness. You can't crawl into a foxhole. You can't hide behind a structure or a tank. You can't hide behind a tree. You can't even retreat. You just have to fly into that stuff and hope that you won't be hit. My name is Bill Rosenai, and I was a lieutenant in the Army Air Corps. And we flew missions over Germany, and I flew 35 missions. Well, I can tell you one thing, there's no such thing as getting used to it. Every time you went up, every time you saw a black puff of smoke, you didn't know if this might be the one that hits the plane, and it's all over.
The impact on your nerves, you're in your turret, and you pray. You pray that you don't get hit.
If you're going to fly an airplane, you've got to know everything about it. Your life could depend on it. My name is Don Thomas. I am an original Tuskegee Airman. The legacy continues. It has a lot of ramifications. The part that I see has to do with perseverance, excellence, attention to detail. It's unquestionable that you follow authority.
I describe it as you feel like a rabbit in a hole with somebody shining a flashlight on you, because During the bomb run, you're not allowed to deviate, and the searchlights are on you, and it blinds you. My name is Jim Green. I was in the Army Air Force during World War II, and I served on the island of Tinian. We were not considered prisoners of war. We were considered special prisoners. And that was the only designation they would give us, because then they could do anything with us they want. They took me and they tied me up and they made bayonet runs to me, and they stuck me in the neck. They tied a rope around my neck. They took me into town, and luckily I was caught by the military, because the civilians kill you. And the civilians would come out of the field, and the military, wouldn't let them near me, and they took me into town. They put me on display. I reverted back to, I come from a rather religious family, and when I was walking into this town, I sang a song that my mother used to take me to Sunday school, and the song was, and tears flowed down my eyes, and usually do now, but I'll try to not have it happen. I sang, "Tell Mother I'll be there in answer to her prayer." 12 people survived out of my group, out of 197.
My name is Earl Fosgard. I served in the United States Submarine Navy, 1943 to 1946. There's a bond of the submarine sailors I think is probably as close as any group of military personnel. And for the most part, submarine sailors were probably just born a little bit more daring perhaps than some people. I think that was part of the criteria when you join the submarine service. Offhand, I can think we think one battleship, 13 aircraft carriers, and just a vast number of destroyers and frigates. So yes, we were very influential, I feel, in the defeat of Japan.
My name is John Heller. I served aboard the cruiser USS Indianapolis in the South Pacific.
Okay, my name is Ray Lanin. I was a veteran of World War II, and I was in the U.S. Army Cavalry.
So we took off without an escort. We were going up to Japan, Philippines to get ready for the invasion of Japan. And halfway in between, we got hit at night, about 3 minutes or 4 minutes to 12.
8 days out of Melbourne, at 10:15 at night, we were hit by 2 torpedoes by a German submarine.
When I jumped out of the turret, landed on the deck, my feet were burnt. I knew there had to be something, and of course, then we went down in about 11 or 12 minutes.
I somehow was allowed to get into that lifeboat that was jammed, and it was just a matter of about 15 minutes later when you heard chung, 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 and we looked, my gosh, it's that submarine.
We weren't fortunate enough to get to a life raft or anything. We just had Cape-Out jackets. And there was approximately about 63 of us in a group, and we tried to stay together and everything through the night. And there on in was fighting the sharks and seeing who would live and who wouldn't.
I'm 18 years old and thinking of my mother, my father, my brother, and this is going to be the last few minutes of my life.
Pride? I think that's about all that we have is pride. We have pride in our country. We have patriotism, which is pride.
We didn't do it to be heroes. We did it because we had to do it. And they couldn't have done it if it wasn't for the home front. That's why it's the greatest generation.
And if they see a veteran, if they know a veteran, go up and hug him, shake his hand, thank him. Let him know that you're gratified or you appreciate all that they've done.
I have these memories, and some of the best of times and some of the worst of times. But I am grateful.
Every day, I still think of Vietnam. Something about it triggers it.
In Vietnam, it was something totally new to us. It was a guerrilla war. There was no front line. There was activity everywhere in Vietnam.
There's totally months of boredom, you know, punctuated by moments of stark raving fear.
I think inside I was scared all the time. Every time we went out on a patrol or we went out on a night ambush or we just went into a village to help people with medical care. I think you always had it in the back of your mind that anything can happen at any time.
Your whole senses change. I mean, your hearing was so keen, your eyesight was so keen, your smell was so keen. Just all your senses, you could tell, almost felt that you knew when something was going to happen.
And so, you know, it was like, wow, what did we get ourselves into? How do we get out of this? Or what's going on? What's going to happen? And so I basically was in a fog the whole time.
We as pilots are more inclined to think and say, it always happens to the other guy, not me. But I, of course, found out that day I was the other guy.
My unit lived in the jungle. We stayed out 3-4 months at a time. At night, we were always in the jungle. And it's, me, I thought I was kind of like an animal at night. You have to act like one to survive.
Whether you agree with why they were there, they did their job. America called, they stepped up to the plate and did their duty. And that's what separates us from every other country. You know, we have our freedom because of these veterans. My name is Larry Sauger, and I was stationed with the 9th Infantry Division of the 9th Signal Battalion at Camp Bearcat in Vietnam. I was the youngest of 9 children and 6 boys, and all of my brothers were in the military, served their country. The draft notice came and I went. I didn't argue with anybody. You know, it was my time to go and serve my country, and I was proud to do it.
My name is Eric Jackson. I served with the 537th Engineer Corps in Vietnam. I was a topographical survey. If you want to define that, they call it first order survey. We did the survey work that they use for construction work to build the road so they know the right elevation and latitude and longitude, and also do the artillery fire.
My name is David Breivik. I served with the 2nd of the 47th Mechanized Infantry, 9th Infantry Division, from 1969 to 1970. As a 19-year-old young man, I thought I knew it all and I was kind of invincible and I could handle the experience. You know, it was more than I had bargained for. It really was. We were ambushed. My track was blown up, took some shrapnel, got thrown up against the 50 gun that I was riding behind, and didn't last probably 10 minutes, but it was, my heart still races every time I think about it.
My name is Brian Bobeck. I served from 1966 to 1968 in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We were convoying one time and I had a truck breakdown, and we knew we were in a red sector where there had been a lot of Viet Cong activity, and so we had to set up a perimeter guard around the truck that was down until we got it repaired, and we did come under fire. It's not like you see in the movies, you know. It's a terrifying experience, to say the least. You look for the biggest, deepest hole you can get into the ground, so you're hopefully not going to get shot.
My name is Woody Horn. I've served in A Company, 4th Battalion, 23rd Infantry, 25th Infantry Division in Vietnam. We were on a search and destroy mission. We came across a large group of North Vietnamese regulars. They had us outnumbered probably about 10 to 1. They called in the helicopters to get us out of there. 10 choppers came in. They picked us up. 7 of them were shot down, and we all crashed in different spots. And we were pinned down for 18 hours.
My name is John Colon. I served with the 3rd of the 506 101st Airborne Division. And I'll never forget, I got my draft notice on June 6th of 66. And I went in the Army 11 days later. I always remembered that I was point. And probably 100 yards out of the cemetery, I could see a bunch of Viet Cong in front of us in a wooded area. We immediately started receiving heavy fire. I was, moments later, I was wounded, and there was 24 and 17 were either killed or wounded that day. I myself was wounded 5 times in a 45-minute period. They pronounced me dead, and they had put me in a body bag. I was toe tagged, all the paperwork was filled out, everything. And I guess I was on a pile of 6, 7 bodies, they said, and I rolled off the pile.
My name is Lawrence D. Bakke. I was in the Air Force. I was a crew chief at Tan Son Nhut from 1967 through 1968. The night of Tet, which is the Lunar New Year, Vietnam, it unfolded with heavy rocket attacks. And then they started to storm the gate. They were coming up out of the ground everywhere. They were just all over the place. I think everybody was scared. You were scared or you were dead, one or the other.
My name is Frank Lampe. I served with Company A of the 158th Assault Helicopter Battalion, 101st Airborne Division in Northern I Corps, Vietnam. The helicopter was a truck. I mean, they used it in every shape, manner, or form that you can think of that an American 19 or 20-year-old boy can do. We did. When you're in the heat of battle, the only thing you can do is that you want to do your best to extract, retrieve, help the other guy. So in the heat of battle, all of this communication is going on, and it's like a moving picture, but you have to put it into your head as to what it is you're seeing. And you know a lot of the different call signs, you know what's supposed to be happening, artillery strikes, air strikes, close air support from helicopters, from gunships, infantry units on the ground moving, and who's taking fire and where are they taking fire. There's a lot of killing. There was young American boys in all shapes and sizes of hits on their body, and that takes the toll.
My name is Donald E. Odell, Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force, retired. Was serving in Vietnam from October 1967 to March 1973. I was a prisoner a few days short of 5.5 years. Shot down on October 17th, 67, and then released on March 14th, 1973. Yeah, when I was initially captured, I was taken to Hanoi and went to what we called the Hanoi Hilton, which was the Wallow prison from the days of the French. And the sole purpose of going there was torture interrogation. Well, I think the first thing you realize when you're in that kind of environment is it's going to be your fellow man. And, you know, your ideals, your beliefs, your family, God, you name it. And you gotta lean on somebody. Once in a blue moon, I'll have a dream, you know, where I'm in that camp. But it sure is a nice feeling when you wake up and you're not there.
Back in the 60s, it was a young generation that hated war, and they hated war because they were afraid they were going to be called to do it.
Had people turn around. I had one person look at me and spit toward my feet. And I said, I don't know what that was about. I was confused at the time. And then I came home and I met some of my friends, and they asked me where I'd been. I said, I was in Vietnam. The guy said, oh, you're one of those guys. He turned and walked away from me. And this was one of my best friends.
We were told when we came off that if we came and went to the cities not to wear your uniform, because they suspected that we might get hassled.
My name is Barbara Rossman, and I served in the United States Army Nurse Corps from 1967 to 1973. There are a good number of people that have not healed yet. There are a good number of people, my husband included, who served 2 terms in Vietnam, who still doesn't talk openly about the stories of his experience. And when you get him to begin talking, he talks about how disappointed he was coming home and not feeling embraced for having done what he believed he was sent to do, and that was to serve our country in serving other countries. It makes it exceptionally difficult for military personnel and their families to feel proud. And we are proud.
My first experience with the wall, as I got closer, it felt like it just came up out of the ground at me. I could just feel it calling me. Get tears in my eyes just thinking about it. It was a very moving experience. There are some guys on there that I know, and to touch that black granite was, like seeing them one more time. So it was emotional.
That is the only place that I can go that I know I'm going to cry as soon as I get there. Yeah, I mean it just grabs you.
My first experience there, I remember shaking really hard, and I was with my wife, and I just, a feeling that you couldn't describe. You felt cold and hot and everything all at once, and to see those names, because it goes with the wall and it's panel 40 West, and there's a whole group of our guys right there together.
It wasn't a healing thing. It didn't heal me at all. It just took me back into a place where I didn't want to be. And today I can't walk up to the wall.
Yeah, there's 58,000 plus young GIs that were killed in Vietnam that people tend to forget. The real reality of war is the sadness that it causes afterwards.
They're all heroes. They did what our government asked us to do. They were in the military and they served their country very well. They're all heroes.
The biggest thing that I feel proud of is an email I got from my son a couple of years ago on Veterans Day. And he's telling me he's proud of me, and that means an awful lot. That's something no medal can replace. Dad, I just wanted to drop you a line on Veterans Day. After seeing what you had to go through as an American who cherishes his freedom and his family's freedom, I thank you. As your son, I just wanted to say that I've always been proud of my dad, but I am even more proud now.